All right, good evening, everybody. This is the City of Desert Hot Springs special meeting of the City Council for December 12th, 2017 at 5 p.m. here in the City Council chambers at the Carl May. A roll call, please.
Councilmember Betts,
Present.
Councilmember McKee,
Present.
Councilmember Parks,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Zavala, and Mayor Mattis.
Present. All right, would everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and join me? Ready? Begin. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll take a motion now to approve the special meeting agenda.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any other comments? I see none, please vote.
Motion passes unanimous.
Thank you. At this time, we'll take comments on the special meeting. This is your opportunity to speak on the item on the agenda. You will have 3 minutes to do so once you state your name. You may line up at the podium and begin when you would like to be heard.
There we go, sorry.
Thank you.
Good evening again, Lawrence Bynum, CEO of Desert's Finest. Obviously, I'm here today to talk about the proposed urgency ordinance to allow recreational or adult use sales in conjunction with the previously issued medicinal sales. I have just 3 brief points. I know I'm limited on time. The first thing is I highly applaud this action. It is critical for Desert's Finest and Desert Hot Springs to stay on the cutting edge of this industry. Desert Hot Springs was one of the first cities to address this. It's losing its competitive edge if it does not allow adult use or recreational use, because adjoining neighboring cities, Palm Springs has passed, Cathedral City's passed, various other cities are passing. The County of Riverside's contemplating it. I mean, it is the future. It is here. I am hopeful, very hopeful, that it's going to pass today and going to help us be competitive. And when I say us, I mean this industry. I don't mean just my store. I'm talking about the city, and I'm talking about every operator here. With the dispensary, it's going to be critical. So that's the first point. I encourage you to stay at the forefront of this industry and to make this happen. The second corollary points have to do with the micro businesses and other related activities. I believe Desert Hot Springs is a resort and a destination. I believe Canna Tourism is here, and it will be here, and I would like to see Desert Hot Springs be at the forefront of that. I would really like to, there's spas, there's resorts, there's reasons to be here. We have established infrastructure. I would like to see some sort of a canna business here, and considering in the future, I know that's not for tonight, but consider the future a lounge or a tasting room, if you will. I think that could be very interesting and positive. I would look forward to presenting a proposal along those lines. And the final thing I'd like to mention is the micro business. Under the new laws and regulations that have been passed, micro businesses are 3 or more activities, including cultivation and dispensing. I believe that every other dispensary has a 99 plant limit. Necessarily, they're a cultivation under state regulations, or at least my interpretation of them. I believe that it would be simple to add the distributor license, and I think it'd be critical to have micro business allowed, particularly for dispensaries, since those are 3 activities that are going to be that are authorized by the state, permitted by the state, and it just seems natural to tie in the cultivation and the distribution in-house. It doesn't need to involve trucking or transfer. It can go from one sealed room to our storeroom. So in conclusion, please have recreational pass. Please consider options for Canna Tourism and to have micro business in compliance with state law.
Appreciate your comments.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else like to speak on the item? State your name. Your 3 minutes will begin.
My name is Umberto Banyara. I own All About Bud. Some of you know me, some of you don't. I haven't been back here since we originally discussed all the ordinance. I think we're missing the boat with the tourism thing. I think I explained it in the beginning. I had that same idea, you know, the Green City, Emerald, whatever. You have all these little mom and pop places are trying to survive and trying to fight against the big guys. Give them an opportunity to do well. You know, a lounge, perfect. It's a perfect thing to have in this town. And being on the forefront, you guys took it by the horns, and I know, Mayor, you really weren't too hip on it to begin with, but it seems to be working out. I hope it's working out. So please, let's do this recreational thing. So, because all these people in this room are the ones that are here are trying to do it the right way, and it's almost impossible. Okay, the rules change, the regulations change, the cities change, everything changes every minute, and yet we're all here trying to do the good fight and be the good people in town and support this and actually pay our taxes and do all the things that we're supposed to do. So we're at a competitive, we're getting killed out there. When they opened up the thing out in Coachella, we're getting killed, okay? So I'd appreciate it if you'd let us do recreational, sooner the better, you know, it'll keep some of us in business. That's it, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak to this item? Please come forth. State your name. Your 3 minutes begins.
Thank you. My name is John Walliver. I'm a resident of Desert Hot Springs. I have one concern that springs immediately to mind when they talk about a lounge. People driving irresponsibly. If you can do something, Palm Drive is a disaster. Every day there's an accident there, I'm sure, and pedestrians are put at risk on a regular basis. If you can do something to perhaps tax people who have lounges or make them responsible in some fashion for any accidents that occur second to their clientele driving after being at their lounge. The traffic conditions around here are dangerous. People speed by that high school when the kids are out walking down the street all the time. Because I'm on that street regularly, I walk to the gym. So my concern is traffic control. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak? No, Ted, you told me you weren't speaking. I'm just joking with you. Go ahead.
I wasn't joking with you when you came in. Ted Marahoff in Desert Hot Springs. Just so everybody knows, I'm not against marijuana. I'd rather see people smoking that than drinking. But as we all know, we've read stuff about how there's mold and different chemicals and stuff in some of this marijuana. I believe I read that after 2018, that the state is going to require that the marijuana be tested prior to being sold. That needs to be looked at by the city before we start making it available on a large scale. I appreciate what the gentleman said about bringing it with the micro businesses, bringing it from the back room basically out to the counter, but there'll be bypassing that one step of having it tested. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak to this item? Yes, sir. State your name and your 3 minutes begins.
Mattis, thank you. My name is Abraham Robin. I'm one of the managers and operators of CV Wellness, also known as IBTHC, over here in Desert Hot Springs. I think the city would definitely highly benefit from letting the dispensaries here go recreational. As you've heard, some people, I did walk in late, but I'm going to assume some people have already made you guys aware that there are other dispensaries out here in the valley that are supposedly running, recreational dispensaries, which we all know is currently not legal. And it's taking a huge effect on our businesses as well over here, which would essentially take, away from what the city is doing with collecting taxes and whatnot. So with you guys, discussing this, I definitely think it'd be a great idea for all of us to move forward with recreational sales here. I can only see it benefiting the city. I don't know the type of numbers you guys are all bringing in from taxes for the city through the dispensaries right now, but I can't see it being a negative. I can only see it being a positive, and if anything, the city will improve. It'll attract a lot of attention, positive attention as well, as long as everyone is in compliance and doing it the right way. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Anyone else like to speak? Second call? Final call? All right, public comments are closed. Our action item on the agenda is an ordinance and urge the ordinance amending all validly approved medical marijuana cultivation, manufacturing, testing, distribution, and dispensary development agreements, entitles, permits, and licenses that are in good standings with the city to include recreational adult marijuana use. Our city attorney, Jennifer Mizrahi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members of the City Council, what you have before you tonight are two ordinances. The first one is an urgency ordinance, which would take effect immediately. And then, of course, a backup ordinance that requires both first and second reading. The urgency ordinance also has findings which are contained in the ordinance to make sure that there truly is an urgency to this ordinance. The ordinance that you have, both of them actually are just pretty much the same thing, which is trying to cover a time period where the city was only allowing for medicinal marijuana uses, distribution, dispensing, cultivation, etc. But because of the change in the state law, and frankly our own ordinances have changed numerous times, this is pretty much cleaning it up, saying, for those businesses in good standing with the city that originally had medical marijuana permits can now also have recreational marijuana permits.
All right, we'll open up to council member comments. Mr. Betts, you're in the queue.
Yeah, first I want to thank you, Mayor, for calling this meeting. It's a special meeting, but it's a very important subject, and so you get compliments for that. Thank you. I just want to quickly clarify the record because I don't want to be here for long on a special meeting, but just so everybody understands where we're at is in 2013 when this council first started working on the issue of marijuana, medical marijuana, it also was working on the subject of recreational. And if you go look through the ordinances that were put through in 2014, they were ordinances in favor of, speaking to the issue of recreational and medicinal, both. This, what we're working on now, is to make sure that everybody who's already gone through the process doesn't have to go through a second process to get both. And I think also so that when January 1st comes around, that we're in the position that this city should be, that everybody else is. So just want to make it very clear that we have been way out in front on both subjects, and this is just cleanup to take care of what we were looking at. Now, we have a ordinance that was put before us. I read it. It looks very good. I just had a couple of comments, and maybe to make life easy for a council member, so I'll pass that down. It's just the ordinance with some suggested changes. And here's, there's one more for the city attorney and the clerk, I think. Yeah, there you go. And all it is the ordinance that you see up on the screen, but with a strike through. And I'll go through these one at a time very quickly.
And if anybody wants a copy of this after the meeting, please let us know. The city clerk can get you a copy.
And I think there's a copy for the clerk now if anybody wants to go read it, but it's very simple. So right now it says that the going through and cutting in the midstream, all approvals are collectively hereby amended, revised to grant all current holders of aforementioned approvals in good standing with the city to include recreational marijuana as a part of their approved marijuana-related activities. And I'm looking at the word "in good standing with the city" and wishing to strike that, just remaining silent on that point. We have other enforcement mechanisms if somebody is not in good standing with the city, which we already know has happened, and we've dealt swiftly with that. Don't stray. It won't work here. But the main intent here is to just make sure that everybody else who's already gone through the process is now folded into the recreational. Frankly, I assumed, I think other council members assumed, that this was already taken care of, so thus the special meeting to get this done in a hurry. I understand this council is looking at this as, might be looking at this as some type of, let's put some enforcement teeth into this. I just don't think it's the right place for that. It's a technical issue, not so much, I'm not gonna die on the cross for that one. I want to add a sentence, and further that all future applications for marijuana-related activities will be deemed to be applicable to both medical and recreational unless otherwise indicated by the applicant, meaning that I don't want to, after this action, where we retroactively take care of the ones that have already gone through the process, I want to take care of now that future ones don't have to go through a dual process, and that we specify right now, make it clear, because my assumption was in 2013 and every other time that we dealt with this, is that as soon as recreational became legal, this city was ready, done, everything was taken care of, and we found out that isn't the case. So now going forward, anybody that puts in, if they come in and say, well, I only want a medical license, okay, fine. If I only want a recreational, okay, fine, but it just, otherwise it's assumed you want both, that's what your application's gonna be, and you don't have to pay double fees and go through all that. So that's my comments, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
All right, Ms. Zavala?
And I would make a motion to that effect when we get to that point.
Okay, I'll come back to you. Ms. Zavala?
I agree in terms of this applying to all future projects so that we don't have to come back twice. But my understanding is that if we were to pass this, even if it doesn't read this, it would apply, correct? Like, okay. My understanding is that right now we're saying, hey, we're updating our ordinances to include both medical and recreational. So regardless of whether or not we add that sentence, it would apply to all future projects, right?
No, there's a distinction. So this ordinance would apply to, we already have the ordinances on the books that allow for recreation and allow for medicinal marijuana on all the different kinds of uses. So that's already on the books. What this does is it cleans up some of the entitlements, like the CUPs that were only issued entitlements for medical
I know,
marijuana. But the point is, to get to your point, which is about the future portion of it, the reason why I didn't include that is because if an applicant wants to come in and ask for, a certain kind of conditional use permit, they would know whether or not, and they would have the opportunity, whether or not if they wanted medicinal, recreational, or both, because we already allow for it.
So the applicant would be able to specify whether, okay, well, you might as well add it then, it doesn't matter. But I would say, though, that I think in good standing is important, because if somebody isn't in good standing, then this is a good motivator to become in good standing with the city. But I'm in favor of adding the extra sentence.
I know nobody else in the queue. I'll make a quick comment. I would like to keep the in good standing, but I would be in support of adding that extra sentence. It's the only question I have. And then some of the comments that were made tonight, some of you have missed previous meetings. For last month, we've been talking about canna tourism in lounges and stuff, and a lot of your comments are important. So if you didn't get a chance to make those comments, please see your council members and please add your comments to that. Staff is developing ordinances and policies on how we're going to deal with the cannabis industry, canna tourism in the future. So I know a lot of you have concerns about that. It seems like the council had a good debate on that, or discussion on that, and staff will be coming back after the first of the year with more on that. So it'll be important that you join us for those meetings. It will be more study sessions on this in the future before we make a vote at the council level. I have nobody. Oh, Mr. McKee, you're in the queue now.
Thank you. I just have one question. Do any of the modifications suggested change anything to the point that we have a problem of any sort? That's the question I have. Do you have a reason to believe the changes have any issues?
Not with respect to further applications. The future applications I'm fine with respect to good standing. It's a policy call on behalf of the city council. If the city council would like to include wording in good standing, it's a policy call. It's not a legal issue.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Bitson, back to you.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion with all the language on the screen in the interest of time saving, reading all that, but adding after marijuana-related activities, adding the sentence, and further that all future applications for marijuana-related activities will be deemed to be applicable to both medical and recreational use unless otherwise indicated by the applicant. That'd be my motion.
And you're not adding the in good standings?
No, I'll acquiesce to the...
You're leaving the good standing.
Yeah, I didn't think
Thank
that
you.
was gonna fly, so, we won't.
Okay.
All right, so I have a motion on the table with the addition to the ordinance. Motion second. Any more comments from council at this point? I see none.
Just to clarify, we are keeping the in good standing.
Yes.
One quick question. Anybody who has paid a fee will get a refund? If they happen to come in seeing the letter that was went out, they will get a refund?
I don't believe anybody's come in and paid a fee, but yes.
Okay.
And if that's the case, yes. If we're not supposed to have picked up a fee from them, we will return it.
Okay, great.
And so you also know, just before you finish this, is that as soon as, if in fact this is approved tonight, all the regulatory permits will be changed administratively from our office and then be delivered probably by U.S. mail to the different dispensaries and cultivation locations.
All right, so the first vote is on the ordinance change. There's a motion and a second. Please vote.
Motion passed is unanimous.
All right, we do need a second vote to adopt this as an urgency ordinance. That's correct, Madam City Attorney?
I missed the question. I couldn't hear you.
There's a second vote that needs to be for the urgency.
I believe that the motion was both for the urgency and for the regular ordinance.
There
so
was
I
two
think we're good.
recommendations on here. I thought we had to take them separate, so my apologies. So all that's done. So does there need to be a first reading?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. It's the first reading of an urgency ordinance of the City Council of the City of Desert Hot Springs, amending all validly approved medical marijuana cultivation, cultivation, manufacturing, testing, distribution, and dispensary development agreements, entitlements, permits, and licenses that are in good standing with the city to include recreational adult marijuana use as amended. And the urgency ordinance goes into effect immediately, and then the regular ordinance will come back for second reading at the council's January 16th, 2018 meeting.
All right, so just to repeat that, since there was a 4/5 vote, actually five vote, but because at least 4/5 did vote for it, these will go in effect in 30 days. Mr. McKee has one last comment.
I'm being sort of cross the T's and dot the I's here. But what we've got on our screen doesn't contain the "and" that has the second part to it. So it appears to me that what we're doing is just doing the first part, not both.
It says on the screen, approved staff recommendation with changes stated by Councilmember Betts.
Yes, if I can clarify, so the changes that were stated by Councilmember Betts will be clarified in the minutes and then also in the ordinance.
Does that satisfy you, or would you like it read on the record?
I'm saying that the original ordinance that is done by normal procedures and the urgency ordinance are not necessarily passed by what's up on the screen.
Just for clarification then, why don't we go ahead and do two votes, Mr. Mayor, if it's okay with you. I do believe that the action item was an ordinance and urgency ordinance, but just in case, just so we're clear, why don't we take them separately?
Okay, so the second part of this is urgency ordinance, which goes into effect immediately, right? Is that what you're asking? Okay.
So moved.
Have to wait for it to come up on the screen. All right, any other comments? Please vote.
Motion passes unanimous.
And I think we found that this needed to be an urgency item because of the deadline for the first of the year, so it qualifies for an urgency. The actual ordinance goes into effect immediately, and we're done. With that said, this meeting is adjourned.